Thank you very much. Some would say it's too much having two Bergans on stage, so Alain Bryan is unfortunately leaving. But it's a great pleasure that we can have the first panel with such an distinguished lineup of speakers. I'm very honored to present Dr. Heinz Fischer, Federal President of the Republic of Austria. Mr. Enrico Letta, President of the Council of Ministers of the Italian Republic. Mrs. Preneet Kaur, Minister of State for External Affairs of the Republic of India. And finally, Mr. Borut Pahor, President of the Republic of Slovenia. "90 minutes of time, which is roughly a duration of a football match. So you have a lot of opportunity to score with your good ideas. We will have an injury time because we will open the panel by the end for your questions and suggestions. So, but let us start because 90 minutes is not so much time as eternity. I hope that we would use it for the good. Let us start with the President of the home country, Mr. Pahor, because we know that when he's speaking about the future of Europe and how to solve the problems we have, he has a solution. He always says, well, it's the United States of Europe. Since you're a politician, Mr. Pahor, have you changed your mind recently in this regard?
Not at all. I do absolutely believe in this strong and powerful idea. I don't know, as nobody does, which course the future will take, but at least I have a firm vision what I would like to do and create. So I think it's important for leaders now to have a consistent, very firm ideas about the future, because now it's time for the leadership. So I don't know if here there is a consensus on this issue. By the way, when talking about United States of Europe, I do not mention melting pot or something like that. Not at all. It is extremely important to take care about our tradition, respect different identities, national one and others, but the crisis showed very clearly that there is a lack of strong institutions, common institutions, to tackle the crisis. So the lesson that we have to take on board is that after European election probably, there is a time to go with next convention on the future of Europe, that the Commission and the Council would come with an idea of some sort of new European constitution, and then to go with this idea in front of all 28 countries and seek a support at the referendum.
But could you give us a time frame?
Well, as I said, I think that the best time for the convention would be after European election. The Commission will be there, the Council will be there, and what is extremely important, the Parliament will be there. And I think that would be the most the better time than now to start this new idea of European Constitution, once again, knowing that the lack of institution right now is one of the causes that we cannot tackle the crisis in a way we want to.
So that seems familiar. We wait for the elections and then we go on.
I think it's impossible now to persuade European Council. Would be absolutely impossible to persuade Commission and Parliament to go with such an important idea, ladies and gentlemen, as Convention on the Future of Europe once again would be after the failure of the Constitution for the very first time, a couple of years ago. So, picking the right time, if of great essence, and I do firmly believe that after European election, it is the time.
Thank you very much for this beginning. We still have more time, of course, on going perhaps more specific, but let us go to Dr. Fischer in the panel. He is, of course, the most senior politician, and you have extremely a lot of experience with changes of Europe. You've done so much through. Austria also changed in the recent decades. But can you give us, with all due respect, some words of wisdom when it comes to change? How do we have to proceed to change in a better direction?
Well, change is a basic element of our world and of our human existence. Humankind couldn't exist and develop without change, even in a biological sense. But of course, we concentrate now on politics, and I can contribute, for instance, that the fact that Austria as a state had a good development after World War II is the consequence that we made a fundamental change in comparison to the Austria in the time between 1918 and 1983, 38. People say often one doesn't learn from history. The modern development of Austria can only be understood if you realize that there was a fundamental change in our basic political understanding. The one was confrontation without end, leading to civil war. The other was peaceful development, social partnership, etc. And the development of Europe is also characterized by change. Elder friends tell that at the beginning of the European Union when it was a club of 6 countries, 6 states, the leaders could sit around the camine, around the, how do you say?
Fireplace, yeah.
Fireplace, and talk and smoke and discuss problems. Now, the European Union with 28 members is a high, complicated, differentiated institution.
And they cannot smoke.
And they should not smoke. Politics means to understand what change is necessary and to organize the strength and the capacity to realize the necessary changes. If you don't understand what change is necessary and in which direction, and then it's bad. If you understand what's necessary and you cannot do it, or you want not to do it, or you're not couraged enough to do it, it is even worse.
But when you told us about Austria and the position it was before World War II, but, well, something tragically happened in between. It caused a change in Austria. And
true.
Many times we say in Slovenia, but we're Europeans, that we change only when we really must, because we have really no option. Are we now in a position that we have to change because we have no other option?
Well, democracy is a political system where enough people are here who are ready to engage for change, even if they are not at the very end of a dead-end road. If you wait with change to the very last minute, it can easily be too late, and you have easily lost options which you have had earlier. So I believe a certain amount of pressure is necessary for difficult decisions. But you also need the wisdom and the knowledge not to wait until it is almost or already too late. And that's the problem in Europe, that before the crisis, obviously, several steps were obviously necessary, but they were not taken because people and politicians wanted to have it more comfortable, and the pressure was not big enough, and the next elections were around the corner, etc., etc. If we want to develop Europe in the best possible way, the readiness for change must be earlier than only if there's the ultimate day already. And I hope that just now, as a result of the crisis and after long deliberations and after even science and economy is analyzing very carefully what's going on and what is necessary, that we have the strength and the determination for reforms and for change even a little bit before the very last moment.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're speaking about a little bit of pressure. I would assume, Mr. Letta, that Italy has a little bit more of this pressure. Now, we owe so much to the Italian politicians who really formed New Europe. You also are a very devoted European. Do you see the situation in Italy the same as, for example, our president, when he says, well, we need more Europe to save it, not less?
I think that I follow the President Pahor's direction. I think that the crisis demonstrated that we need more Europe, but first of all, we need a more efficient Europe. The timing of our decisions is a crucial issue, and I would like just to underline how many billions of euros we wasted because of the bad timing of the decisions at European level. Billions of euros that we have now, myself and Alinka and the other Prime Minister, to find cuts in our budgets because of this waste of money for the incorrect timetable of the decisions, for saving banks, for deciding preemptive actions, preparing the discussion about sovereign debts, and so on. So I would say that the European problem, in my view, is more a political problem than an economic problem. Because we are economies, in my view, very efficient, well-performing towards the rest of the world. Our problem is that we are not able to decide at the correct time, and I think that the discussion also about foreign policy in these very days is a very crucial one, because, of course, how to have an European Union united in the global stage, able to say one word, united and powerful, because we are powerful if we are united in the world. So I would say that next year, in my view, will be a crucial year for the reasons of President Pahor, but also because of the change of the European Parliament, the change of the Commission, the change of the President of the European Council. All these decisions are there. We have to take this decision. I will suggest, for instance, to take one of these decisions, the decision about the new president of the Commission, in a new way. Not a negotiation, a night, and I would say a nightmare negotiation about 28 people closed in a room in Brussels, discussing and deciding who will be the one. Because, as the mayor said before, citizens are there. And in my view, citizens, they have the power, they have to decide. Also the President of the Commission, because the President of the Commission is the crucial representative of all of the European Union among our citizens and in the world. So I think we have to accept the fact that the European elections, they have to be decisive for the choice. The main parties, the main European parties, in my view, they have to decide their candidate, and at the end of the process, we have to decide among the 28 the candidate with more votes in the European Union after the European elections. In my view, that will be a crucial change, as President Fischer said, crucial change, giving the power in the hands of the citizens. And this is, in my view, today the crucial issue for us.
Mm-hmm. Because you mentioned the billions, of course, we're very much interested in it because it's our millions, billions, taxpayers' billions. But when you said we were spending it in an inappropriate way because we were not dealing in right time, how can we be sure now in Italy and in other countries that these billions are spent better now because we are in a crisis, we have to deal with it, we have to be even more concerned about it?
But for instance, because we decided, and we share with Prime Minister Bratusek this decision at the end of June, this very important decision about the banking union. Having today the banking union at the European level creates a situation in which we can be able to avoid all the disasters that we had in the past. I would say just to be clear what I mean. For Italy, the crisis was a crisis of internal problems, but also of external expenditures. We as Italians, from our internal budget, for saving other countries, we spent 50 billion euros. I repeat, 50 billion euros spent from my internal budget, and I have to convince my people today to have cuts, reforms, and so on, to find in these 2, 3, 4 years since the beginning of the crisis, these 50 billion euros to save the other countries because of the incorrect timetable and timing of the decisions. This is why I say I am more optimistic because of this banking union decision. Now we have to implement this banking union decision, and as Italy, we are very much engaged, because next year we will run the second semester of the year as President of the European Union, and it will be a crucial semester because it will be the semester in which the President will be changed and we will decide the new President. So we will be there, and we will be very much engaged to reach a better Europe, a more democratic Europe, with the participation of the people, but a more integrated Europe. On the banking union, in my view, it was one of the most important decisions, but of course it's just a decision. Now we have to implement the decision, and we know very well that the implementation is the very crucial moment in which the devil is there.
Which is very much the problem of the politics in general, not only in Europe. Now, we have, of course, an extremely valuable outside view to Europe from the huge nation of India. Mrs. Kaur, when it comes to total population, you of course represent a much bigger nation than the EU and Europe. as a whole. So is it very difficult for you to deal with a small partner from Europe to deal with?
Well, Europe is now conceived as the European Union. And as it was just said that there are 28 states, and we in India have also 28 states in the Union of India, added one more just now, so we become 29.
Catch up.
You will catch up. I hope we remain there, but we might also multiply as the aspirations of the regional people come up. We certainly are living in a changing world. There are many areas that we are changing in which affect the whole world. So to deal with, let's just say, the change of Europe, it has an effect on the change in India as well. Europe is one of our largest trading partners, and when there's a problem here, there's a problem in India. And after having successfully weathered 2 downturns, I think we have got caught up in the third. So change is necessary, change is taking place, whether it's a terrestrial domain defined by maritime space, an extraterrestrial domain which is space-related, or cyberspace. So all this is related to the whole world, and I think globally, including each one of our internal problems that we are having, they all are interdependent, and we have to look to one another to form policies that will help us. Prime Minister from Slovenia, she just talked about the change that is necessary, the conservation of water, which is going to be a great thing that is happening, and the climate change that's taking place.
But, yeah.
I will just reply to a suggestion that Prime Minister Letta gave us. Now, you are saying let the next Commission reflects the will of the people. Okay, this is not about efficiency. It's about the capacity. And we do know at the moment that the House back in Brussels does not have the power to nominate the Commission. The Council has. Now, in my view, to change this and to go with your idea, and I do support it, is to change the Constitution, to make a Constitution. So I would like just to make it clear, when I am speaking about United States of Europe, I am speaking about the more stronger political institutions with much more capacities than now. So this is exactly what I'm speaking for, and we are both in favor of this great idea.
Thank you for this step in, Mr. Pachor, but when I come back to Mrs. Kaur, well, Mr. Letta spoke about how the Europeans form their, let's say, European government. It's pretty much the European way. Okay, we're used to it, but perhaps outside Europe it can be sometimes quite disturbing. Would it be easier for your country to deal with a more unified, more united Europe in order to be more efficient globally?
I think, as I said earlier, that Europe is one of our largest trading partners. So we will have to learn how to deal, besides individually, with the European Union, because you have started making common programs and laws. And we are at the moment, for the trade purposes, also negotiating for a trade treaty with Europe, with the European Union, which has not quite come through, which would then help us to deal easier with the exports and the imports coming from, and the economic relationship between Europe. We both in Europe, European Union and India are the largest democracies put together in the world, so we do share a common vision which is democratically related, and to carry on our work that way. So I think the question of having what is easier to deal with, each one is in its own context. And the bearing of the European Union, certainly as a large power, a concentrated power of all the European states that are together, will have an effect on us and our dealing. And we look forward to a good and a better relationship to help to shape the world.
Well, we share this hope for sure. Dr. Fischer, Mr. Leta spoke about, let's say, the legitimacy of a new European, let's say, government or European leaders who will emerge from the elections next year. But sometimes we have the feeling that the Europeans are actually very tired of voting European. They have so many elections at home, in Italy, in Slovenia too. Okay, Austria will have an election right now, but so how can we ensure that this new European government, the United States of Europe, which will probably come, would have more legitimacy?
First of all, I want to say I'm really a convinced European. I know that the future of this continent lies in the hands of cooperation, peaceful cooperation, enlargement and deepening in Europe. But the word, we need more Europe, is very imprecise. I cannot use it like I want more chocolate. I want more Europe. What does it actually mean? Is it enlargement, and how far? Is it deepening, and in which direction? Is it concentrating on all aspects of politics, or more on finance policy and less on other fields of politics? We are sometimes a little bit imprecise. In this particular question, namely the more legitimation, more applause and identification, I think this is a very complicated problem. Like democracy in our national states, democracy on the European level is also even more complicated. The proposal to say elections for the European Parliament should also be used for an indication who has authority to be the next president of the Commission. I fully agree. Pahua is right. If you want to fix it on a legal basis, you need a change of the European Treaty. A change of the European Treaty before the election is impossible, and soon after the election is also very difficult. I discussed it by chance 3 days ago in Alpbach with Mr. Barroso, and he has the same opinion. He says, yes, he supports the idea, but it cannot be based in the near future on the paragraphs of the treaty. It should be an arrangement between the responsible personalities on the field of European politics to agree. The Social Democrats have a #1 candidate. If he is successful, he should be proposed to the Council for President of the Commission. The same is for the conservative Christian Democrats, the same for the Liberals. This is a good method. Another innovation which is agreed already upon is the question of a Europe-wide referendum. It's a good idea, but of course it will be probably very seldom. It will be not the instrument for steering the policy. It will be if there is a very crucial decision to say, let's make a Europe-wide referendum. And the problem is that what seems to be important for a referendum, let's say in Italy, not necessarily is very interesting for Sweden, and what is an ardent problem in Greece is not the same what is interesting in Hungary. So all these instruments of our national democracy are not easily to be transformed but to the European level, but we need to go that way because the lack of legitimation on the European level is a problem, and it is a growing problem. And we have not only a big opinion saying we need more Europe, we have also a big opinion saying be careful, not everything should be decided in Brussels, and don't make a new centralization. And the former Czech president Václav Klaus went very far, saying we had already directives from Moscow, we don't want new ones from Brussels. In my opinion, this is unfair, and you cannot compare this. But it reflects a certain mood in the population that it is necessary to make the process of further integration more accepted.
But where's the core problem? Who is hindering it? Is the problem with the national state because, well, they feel, well, we don't want to give up the power we have?
Well, the problem is very simple to describe. If you go to a very nice man in Tyrol and you talk with him, or in Salzburg, or in wherever, in Carinthia, on decision making, he says, well, the mayor in my village is a nice guy, but he has the nose a little bit high up. But if you need to go to the governor in Innsbruck, it's almost impossible to reach him. And I have no interest that too many decisions are taken in Vienna. And now there are some politicians who want to give more and more competences to Brussels. They are crazy. I do not want to have such a big influence so far away. And this thinking is a core of our problem.
But how could we change it? Education? Can the media change it? Can the politicians change it?
Well, many problems have not only a single answer. Education, of course, plays a role. Then better governance plays a role. If you have the feeling Brussels is really doing well and is accepted, the prime ministers and those can play a role who agree to some decisions in Brussels, and at home they may be a little bit more careful than they have been.
Sounds very familiar.
During the decision process. So you need a positive mood vis-a-vis Europe, a good performance, and I'm not pessimistic. I'm sure the future of the next generation and after of my grandchildren lies in a strong Europe. But it's a hard way to go there.
Mr. Bachor, well, okay, we have a future, says the federal president of Austria. You always speak on behalf of the citizens because you were also elected directly from the people, just like the mayor of Bled. But as I said, we in Slovenia are perhaps less optimistic than Mr. Fischer. We have to deal with our internal problems, which seem huge, sometimes unbearable. There are other nations too who have the same problems. How would you convince the Slovenian citizens of Europe to react, to rise, to claim what they have the right to be good Europeans and to have a say in Europe?
Now, two things. Number one, I've been there as a member of European Council, as the Prime Minister, when the crisis hit Europe. As Madam Prime Minister said, the European Union has been unprepared. Then we tried in different way to find a proper solution within the framework of Lisbon Treaty. But it is crystal clear today that Lisbon Treaty is okay for present, but not sufficient for the future. Now, I'm not saying that the idea of United States of Europe is the only idea, but at least it represents a, let's say so, a comprehensive view on how to reform Europe that would be a competitive factor in international affairs and could give the Europeans $500 million social rights, economic rights, political stability, and influence in international affairs. So, number two, it is extremely difficult to, go with this idea representing a small country. Now, my fellow citizens would say, listen, Mr. President, just 23 years ago, we've decided to go alone as independent states, okay, independent state, okay, with strong European idea, but wouldn't be too much if we would give another, a range of sovereign rights to the Brussels. Well, my answer is our perspective as a small nation which is keen to keep its own identity is exactly within the family of strong countries who are capable to work together on common future. If Slovenia would decide or would be incapable to go with those countries, then I am afraid for the future and identity of my nation and my country. So, being outside will be much more dangerous than being inside. There are some risks, yes, but less than being outside. So, that is why I am very strong in advocating this idea among our people, and I do know that sooner or later will come the time that referenda will be here in Slovenia, and that our people will decide, decide upon our future. And I would like to go at that time in front of them, appealing to vote in favor of, without fears about our future, but with strong hope that this is the right answer.
But what would be because we have a long history of referendums, what would be the question?
Well, by the way, I've lost as Prime Minister all referendums but one. Mm-hmm. And this is on agreement with Croatia. Was very tough, but we won it. Because at the end of the day, the common interests prevail, and I'm not afraid that by talking this issue, not that I would now say that everybody is in favor of, but talking this issue about the future of Europe, about our future within Europe, it is important that once when the referendum will be there will be a chance that the majority will vote in favor of.
Well, the referendum on future, well, we all want future, of course, but it will be, what, on the future, let's say, United States of Europe? Or?
I think that the Constitution will be once again proposed to all 28 nations. Okay. This is my judgment on future of events.
New Constitution for Europe, the ones who will be in favor of will join.
This is my firm idea.
The others, so a completely new redefinition of
Well,
Europe.
in a way, here I can see some members of European Parliament. In a way, we will try to do once again some sort, as we've already done. This is a European Constitution. At that time refused back in France and in Netherlands and so on. And even maybe 2 or 3 steps further. So yes, I am in favor of this idea. I will support those who will be in favor of this idea, and I'm not saying that talking about this idea, I'm speaking on behalf of the majority of my fellow citizens. It is an idea at the moment that does not enjoy a strong support among Europeans.
Well,
I do know.
You seem convinced, but what if it fails, if you lose also this referendum?
Well, I do not agree with President Fischer that no matter what will happen with this idea, the future, the peace and the stability is there. I do not agree. There is no historical evidence that Europe will survive without further deepening of political, economic, and social ties among nations together. By the way, never ever before the old continent has survived for so long time without war as now, with this strong European idea. But now, status quo, Heinz, status quo is already a step back. This is my...
But there is no idea from status.
Just press the button. They're friends.
Slovenian advice is always good. I think status quo is totally the opposite of what is written here, changing Europe in a changing world. And obviously the world is changing. When I was in school, I learned India has 360 million inhabitants or something like that. Now it's 3 times as much. And when I went to school, I don't want to take time to, to come back how Europe looked. The process of enlargement will continue. We have the problem of Turkey, is a special case to discuss, but the process of enlargement will continue. The process of deepening must continue. Prime Minister Letta has explained the necessities, banking union and other models of steering the finance policy in Europe. In questions of foreign policy, we will have more cooperation. In questions of science and education, Europe will grow together. There is no idea of status quo. The question is only how fast to go in which direction and when to set the next steps. I'm skeptical that the too big step in the too near future has a bigger danger of failing, of a Misserfolg, of a disadvantage, Misserfolg, of a defeat or failure, than if we try to go step by step and to prepare it carefully, coming closer and closer and closer together. This is the only future for Europe, and I'm optimistic that Europe has a chance, it has at least a chance, to be an area where war is not a realistic option or danger in politics. I dare to say this even if we are in Slovenia, where a sort of war has taken place only 20 years ago, a little bit more. But war in Europe doesn't make any sense in the future. And if we go step by step in the direction of more cooperation and coordination, it is fine, and it is the best medicine to avoid war or similar things.
But with all due respect, Mr. President, there are some journalists and some people who have, for example, visited Greece lately, and they say there's a war there going on. It's a different kind of war. We haven't experienced it like this 60, 70 years ago, but this is a kind of war.
Yes, but it is a social war, and the field of social policy is something else we haven't touched yet, to make the differences between the most advanced and the least advanced areas in a country and between the countries smaller. But what I understand under war is that the nations are so hostile against each other, and the antagonism is so great, and the price they believe to pay for war is relatively low, and then the calculation says war is better than no war. And this situation can be avoided in Europe. I'm optimistic.
Okay, because you mentioned inequalities between the regions. The Italians have tremendous experience with that. Within Italy, a strong division between the north and the south. Now we're facing something very similar, or it seems like this, in Europe. How can the Italian experience help us to deal with this? Because it's a huge problem.
Yes, of course. It's not something of new. I remember a paragraph of Montesquieu, a speech in which Montesquieu was saying something of negative about the Southerns, very liars, and so on and so on. The problem of the differences inside a very big Europe today is a crucial problem of course, division of resources, money, on a different way to act, and also a different way to tackle very huge problems. I will underline, for instance, migrations. We, the Southerns, today we are facing migrations which are in this very period something of enormous after the period of Arab Springs and so on, and the Egypt crisis, the Syrian crisis and so on. Just one example in which one item is completely different if you live in Sweden or if you live in Lampedusa in Sicily. But the only way, in my thought, is to apply subsidiarity for the future of Europe. Mm-hmm. Because I'm very much convinced that we need a vision, and the vision I completely share. The vision is United States of Europe for the future and for the near future. We need a vision. I'm very pragmatic for the needs to survive in Italian politics. But I think for Europe we need a vision. We need a vision. Without a vision, we will have, in the next months of May, the most Eurosceptic European Parliament in our history. Because we are discussing about what? Europe in the past was a sort of deal between lack of democratic legitimacy and very important outputs. And we repeated in the past, okay, yes, we have a deficit, democratic deficit, but look at all these outputs. The main problem is today that we are not able to present many important outputs. There are a lot of negative outputs for our public opinions. So the main problem is today is to run the next European elections with a vision, with a project for the future. The project, in my view, needs to be the United States of Europe, and applying subsidiarity, in my view, is something is linked to the competences of the Salzburg mayor or the Bled mayor, and something is linked to the very high level. Because, of course, the world today is interconnected. The trade, for instance, is something completely out of our competences, the global trade. And the way of the normal life of the citizens is really connected to the rules of the international trade. We are starting the negotiations with the United States about TTIP. TTIP, in my view, is a great achievement. We have to run to achieve this big agreement, because we need to have international and global agreements on trade. But to have this agreement, is important to have one negotiator in Brussels, it's impossible to have 28 negotiators, of course. This is why subsidiarity, in my view, is the only way. And I'm closing my bag to fly to St. Petersburg in these very days. And I would say the glass is half full today in comparison with the past. The last two G20 meetings, they were completely focused on the European problem and the European problems towards the world. Europe was the virus, and we were not guilty for that, because the crisis started in the States, not in Europe, but for the two or the last three G20s, we were the guilties. Today, we are not. We are going there to try to find a new framework against fiscal evasion, against corruption, international corruption, and so on. I hope we will find agreements on Syria and on the crisis, but of course, the glass, in my view today, is half empty on that. This is why we have to run towards the European elections, giving a vision, sharing a vision. This is on this subject. I would like to prepare the Italian semester on next year, and of course, trying to discuss also the problems between the South and the North, because of course we need to have a stronger European Commission, as President Power said, because only with a strong European leadership in the hands of the European Commission we can achieve the results we need. But of course we need to have also at the European level the possibility in the European Council to find a new way to discuss. I was, for instance, shocked by, and I think Alinka was shocked too, in our second European Council next June at 2 o'clock in the morning, in a completely crazy way to discuss a sort of market, a night market about funds and about budgets and so on, in a way that is not, in my view, the correct way to discuss.
A sort of European bazaar.
Exactly, a sort of European bazaar. So in my view, the discussion about the future of the institutions, a change of the constitution, is absolutely needed. And I say and I underline this point because of today size matters. And I'm very glad to say size matters, speaking after our Indian friend, because size matters, yes. It's a different way to discuss. Italy was accepted and was one of the founders of the G7 in '75. At that time, Italy was, with 50 million inhabitants, was a great country in a small world, because the world of '75, the trade world at that time was a small world in which Italy was a great country. Mm-hmm. Today the world is enormous, enormous, and we can be effective, we can be powerful as Europeans only if we are there with one voice. If we are there with 28 voices, we will be completely unable to present our values, our ideas in the world, and I want a European Union effective, not a European Union useless in the world of tomorrow.
Which would, perhaps, if you politically survive the next G20 meeting with another Europe, it would mean only one voice for Europe, because it will be quite interesting in St. Petersburg. There will be, of course, Italy, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, and Mr. Barroso representing the European Union. So Europe, in a way, has an advantage. It has more voices. How could we understand the future of this? Because now we're speaking with many voices. Okay, some are more national, sometimes nationalistic. Would that change too?
Oh, for what I'm concerned, I will assure you that the Italian voice will be always an European voice in this kind of discussions. In the G8 in Locarno, in the G20 in St. Petersburg, next year in Brisbane, we would like to be the more European country there. And this is why I accept and I thank very much Alinka's wish. I will be there in St. Petersburg trying to say something of European, not something of Italian, because we need to be there and to have, as Europeans, really a single voice, and to try to develop this kind of international frameworks, having a more European integrated voice.
To be a little provocative, okay, we can rely on Italy, but what about other European members of G20?
I'm sure that they will be very Europeans.
Okay. India will be represented in St. Petersburg, of course, too. Well, Mrs. Square, if you've listened to all these discussions, so what do you think? Oh, these Europeans, again, the same old stories. With your wisdom, with the tradition India has, and the framework it works in, because as you said, you have 29 member states. What would you suggest to Europeans? How to deal with such a pretty much difficult situation we're in?
Well, listening to all the esteemed members, one thing I can say is that they are from a democratic system where they know how to take the aspirations of their people to a logical conclusion. Everybody here is probably more experienced than I am in the democratic system. It's my third term only in our parliament. But when the great institution of democracy takes over, I think the aspirations of the people in villages, the people in towns, they all come together, and everyone is conscious that they have to try and get the best possible result out and look for the future and the well-being of the country. And I think that is what this changing Europe in a changing world is all about. And listening to all the esteemed panelists, I am sure that the getting together of a United States of Europe will certainly be a source of more stability in the region. It will certainly give the EU more leverage in the international arena, and it will add to its credibility as a global player. And I, from my side, certainly would wish a great deal of stability, because that's how we'll all progress. And I'm sure that our Prime Minister, who is taking part in St. Petersburg in the G20, will be able to express his ideas for the future in a very well-integrated global sense. So I have great hope that the European Union, with the rest of the world, as Prime Minister from Italy says, that you have a bigger player, so it's easier. And everybody being democratic will be able to fulfill the aspirations for a better future for our children and grandchildren.
Thank you very much for these encouraging words. Yeah. Say.
No, I just was listening with great interest with great interest what Prime Minister Letta said about the vision in politics. And I was impressed many, many years ago to read a sentence from Martin Walser, who wrote, a German writer who wrote, the existence of a vision is the precondition that one day the vision can become reality. This is totally true, and this is a motive for me in politics and in European politics. What I have learned in addition, that if you want to change the vision into reality, to need some good judgment how big the steps can be on the way from the vision to reality. Because if you be impatient and try to make steps too big, you can risk a failure. If the steps are too small, you are too slow. So what we need is to have a vision on Europe, on the future of Europe, on a common Europe with the same values and human rights, etc., but also to have a feeling for timing, so that we make it possible for the people in elections, etc., to follow and to understand and not to reject the idea. That I wanted to add to your commitment to visions in politics.
And this brings us to Mr. Bachar. So well, your steps could be a little bit too long. Do you want too much?
Well, listen, is there any debate on future of Europe right now? There is lack of this debate. And this just half a year before, or 1 year before next European parliamentary elections. So it is time for those who put very strong, hope in the future of Europe to come with a vision. I am not saying that the idea of United States of Europe, it is the only one. But it is an attempt to make a one vision feasible to the majority of Europeans. So, if at next European elections Euroscepticism prevail, we would be in great problems. So, what I'm saying now, and I do concur with what Heinz said before. Now it's time to debate this issue. I'm not saying that every word that I'm saying is okay and couldn't be changed, but at least we have to inspire debate within domestic and within European framework. So there is an idea. It is some sort of a vision. It is pro-European. If there will be no, fight for it, then Euroscepticism will prevail, and after next European elections, we will be in trouble. So now it's time to fight for the idea and to, debate and brush this idea until would be understandable enough for the people to get with it.
Or, Mr. President, should we wait for the German election first?
Well, I've been speaking about United States of Europe before that. I had a speech before European Parliament half a year ago. I've committed to this idea for a long time. So I have not to wait for anybody, but to debate go on and to be a part of this debate. Now it is a lack of this debate, and this forum is trying to give us some sort of help to go on with it.
Of course, but there's another problem because, okay, people of Slovenia, you know them better than me because you deal with them in every possible possibility. Also, with some, you go to them, you work with them. They're very skeptical because they have to, as our Prime Minister always says, we have to extinguish the fire. And that's the same situation in Greece, in Portugal, in Spain, in Italy, or in Ireland. Can we think about it while we're dealing with the fire we have at home?
Would be a great failure if we would do just pragmatic steps. Yes, we have to do it. Prime ministers, ministers, everybody in executive branch are appealed to do their best. But in civil society and in different political forces, are we obligated to think about a vision, as you said? Yes, I think we have to do it. So both steps are needed. Pragmatic answers to the crisis and vision for the future of Europe.
How are you, Mr. Letta, dealing with it? Because you said you were a pragmatist and you are the Italian Prime Minister, so you definitely are. So how do you combine this vision with dealing with the everyday problems? They're huge in Italy. And also the unrest is quite big in your country, especially with the young people.
I think it depends on the priorities, of course. Today, at the European level, we have a new priority. That was, it was not a priority 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Today is a priority, the social priority, the fight against youth unemployment, for instance. In my view, is the first priority. It's the first priority because we are losing a generation. And they are leaving our countries, they are going in the rest of the world when they can, of course. If not, they are obliged to stay and to have poor jobs, not at the level of the skills they can have. And our political systems are not able to deal with these problems. And I think vision is necessary also for giving hope to this new generation without hope. This is why at the last European June Council we started with, in my view, a very important signal on that, but it was, in my view, a first signal because it's necessary to continue saying to the people that the European Union is confronting concrete problems and is preparing very concrete answers. In my view, the citizens, they have to watch television in the evening and the news from the European Union. They have to be not only linked to acronyms incomprehensible, like usually today Europe gives, but items very concrete. For instance, job for youth. This is why youth guarantee is the first step, but we have to continue like that. And of course, subsidiarity, because I know very well that the Austrian rate of unemployment, I was in Vienna some days ago with our friend Werner Feimann, is not the same that we have in Italy or we have in Slovenia. This is why I think we can cooperate and we can have best practices and apply goals, the right goals on that. But what is important is to give to our citizens the correct message. And the message is the European Union is there, is dealing with the problems of today's priorities. This is, in my view, a good combination between pragmatic approach and vision, because without a new generation on board, and really on board, not on board at the end, but on board, really on board, we will be able to have a future. If not, it will be very difficult to save Europe, in my view. We will be divided with no hope, with the rise of Euroscepticism. That is, in my view, the big risk today, because it's very easy to say Europe is the guilty, Eurocrats and the rest, we are not guilty, because it's their fault. It's not like that. The problem is the globalization running and the need for us to have the correct answers at the correct timing and, of course, in the correct way. That is today the most crucial challenge for politicians. And of course, it's not easy to explain to the people because the institutional discussion is the worst discussion for the citizens. But it's crucial, so we have to, in my view, to separate and to have this institutional discussion with results, but with the correct combination with concrete items and with concrete policies. Policies today, in my view, is more important than politics in the European way of life today. And we have to combine these policies, effective policies with a new vision about the future of Europe that is, in my view, decisive for having a good participation in the next European elections and, of course, a good success of people pro-European.
Okay, before we turn to you, to the audience, I would like to conclude this, let's say, the official part of the panel with the senior politician, the most optimistic one, the one who learns us about the vision. Dr. Fischer, well, what could this vision be? A new kind of European welfare state, a new, even more democratic Europe with more sensibility towards immigrants. What should we look for? What would be our...
The modern society is combined of several elements. In my vision or in my hopes, peace plays a central role. That's one of the reasons why I'm so skeptical vis-à-vis the idea to solve the problems in Syria with military instruments. But this is another case. Peace is connected with human rights. And Article 1 of the Human Rights Charter of the United Nations, namely, alle Menschen sind, all human beings are born with the same human dignity and the same rights. This is when I was President of Parliament, I ordered that over the entrance of our Parliament, this Article 1 of Human Rights Charter was inscripted in the stone, because this is a fundamental principle. It's a vision, if you want. Thirdly, as far as I know, in Europe live about 7% of the world population, and Europe spends 50% of world expenditure for social affairs and social support and social reasons.
You're quoting Mrs. Merkel there.
The social welfare state in Europe is a unique invention in history of humankind. It was developed only in the last 200 years, and it must be balanced, it must be improved, but it is a part of our vision. And so these main elements are the basis of my hope for the European and for the worldwide future.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're open for questions from the audience. We had the gentleman with the beard in the gray suit. Have you got a mic? Not yet. It's Europe. You have to wait a little bit. We're not so efficient, but...
Thank you. No button to push. My name is Andrea, I'm 31. 7 years ago I started an organization called Think Young. We are based in Brussels and Geneva. We are now 15. It's a kind of success stories. We're opening in Hong Kong in October to do projects in Asia and India as well. And one of the projects we do for young people, we were thinking that Europe started as a dream after the Second World War, not to have war anymore among the member states, but to have peace. And once we achieved peace, and this has been done kind of 10 or 15 years ago, there is a lack of a new dream, as you were saying, a new vision. And now we start asking young people what is their new dream for Europe. And as you're a fairly young panelist, I would like you, what is your dream for Europe? And if you can please tell us something a bit daring, a bit risky. I mean, we celebrated recently the anniversary of Martin Luther King's speech. And when he did it, he spoke about something that nobody thought it could have ever happened. So if you can tell us something that it's unthinkable, and if you can tell us something that is a bit more than just United States of Europe, which sounds very much like a copycat of something that has been done in the US 150 years ago, especially because the European Union started with Schuman and Adenauer and De Gasperi, and it's a concept that now in Africa they're copying it, and it's a concept that now in Asia they're copying it, and it's a concept now in South America they're copying it. So finally someone is copying this innovative project which is called European Union, and I would like to know what is the dream, what is your dream, and if you're interested after maybe we can also tell you which is the dream that the young people have for the future of Europe. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, I have a dream. I said it. It's my dream. I will fight for it. I will try to convince as many people as possible. And maybe I will be wrong at the end of the day. But I have a dream, I have a vision, and I will fight for it.
It's better to have a dream than a nightmare. Okay, we have the gentleman in the third row.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm coming from a teeny Balkan country of Montenegro. You haven't been focused so much on enlargement process, but I would like to hear answer for the further question. When we pass all the steps on the way or our way to the European Union, are you sure that somebody will be there to open the door for us when we knock the door? Thank you.
Dr. Fischer.
Yes, I'm quite sure, because the procedure of becoming a member of the European Union is not to say you fulfill all preconditions and you pass all exams, and at the end people will sit together and say like this, or let's open the door or let's close it. But the rule of the game is to say there is a decision necessary for the opening of a negotiation process with a certain amount of chapters, and if you go through all these chapters successfully, like all member states did in the last years, and Austria did as well through 3 years about, then you are designated to be a member, and never a member in this stadium was rejected. A new situation was created vis-à-vis Turkey, because there it was said in the process of joining the European Union, we have to check both sides, namely whether Turkey is ready to fulfill the conditions and whether Europe is ready to accept such a big country like Turkey. But in all other cases, including the countries from the north and the countries from Eastern Europe, when the negotiation process was ended through all the chapters, then they were accepted and became members.
Thank you. We have the gentleman with the beard. I think he's from Kran. He looks like this. Just a moment.
Hello, hello. Well, a very good afternoon to you, everyone, Mr. President and everyone. My name is Mehtab Singh, and I'm from India, currently stationed in this country, in Kran. And before I continue, I would like to say Sat Sri Akal to my fellow Indian, welcome to Slovenia. I would like to take some other point of view. I'm very, very happy that we have some smart and good-looking people sitting in this hall. I would like to play some different chords without being scared that it might give some bad music. First of all, my question goes to the Prime Minister from Italy. You said that the decision to, let's say, spend 50 billion was on the wrong time. Was it only on the wrong time, or it was a bad move, just to help other countries? So if it was on the bad time, so anyhow it was something good which you were able to do for the other countries. But when you say it was a bad time, was it also a bad thing to do? And second thing is, we are talking about the European Union. I was in Zagreb in the month of June, in the middle of, and on the 1st of July they were having, they were in the process of becoming a fresh EU member state. Spar, which is a common supermarket around Europe now, an Austrian company, in Zagreb, they were having big signboards that the prices are going to go up after 1st of July. Is EU gifting us a price hike? How come that same Austrian company, same products, are able to sell those products cheaper in Zagreb before it comes into EU, and just within a single night, after midnight, the prices are going high? This is my second question to actually everyone. And I would like to put this question on behalf of the common man, because I'm not a because I would like to represent the common people first. Also, the question about the dream. I think nowadays we are having, thank you, Mr. President, that you have a dream. I'm very, very happy for that. But normally, in the other European countries, rather of I have a dream, it's like I have a hope. How come those words have changed into I have a hope? And even some countries, unlike Slovenia, some other countries are having, saying, I have a dream for a bailout. So this is something which is happening. So I would like kindly, I do not want that my future generation should term us as a traitor or as the people who were not competent enough to give them a better life. So this is my question, and I would like to have the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My first point is about when I raised 50 billions. 50 billions is the whole amount of money that Italy spent in these 5 years for helping the others inside the European Union. And of course, the main problem is the years we waste, the time we waste before arriving at the decision of September 12th, the whatever it takes decision taken by Draghi, and taken by Draghi because of the June Council of the last year. And this June Council deciding to give the possibility to Draghi to say whatever it takes was the end of the spread between the interest rates war. And this war was one of the main problems of the European Union, and of course the waste of money was depending on this war very much. And when I say 50 billions, I say in another word, it was necessary to decide 4 years ago whatever it takes. Mr. Bernanke said whatever it takes 4 years ago, and the states are today out of the crisis, in the path of the recovery, and we are not. We are still not. So my point about the timing is because of the waste of money, depending on the fact that we took decision in a big delay at the European level. And in my view is the crucial point, because we were for some years as guilties in the international stage. And what I want to say about the dream, I don't know about dreams, visions, and so on. What I know is that alone it will be decadence, for sure, for any European country. It will be impossible to stay alone in the global world and to have growth and to have the possibility to influence the world with our values. Our values are different from the rest of the world. Our way to have the link with the earth, with our countries, with the beauty of our cities, with our culture, is something of different. We, the Europeans, we have to be proud of that. And we are not so much proud. We have to be proud, but we have to know without a more integrated union, it will be decadence. It will be impossible to influence the world with our values. This is my dream.
Okay, can we let the question... we go on with the gentleman in the yellow tie.
Thank you. Michele Ozza from UCHAM, European Chamber. We, the business sector, companies, are already working on the United States of Europe since a long time. The civil sector is doing the same since a long time. It's very nice to see how companies all across Europe, from Russia to Portugal, from Macedonia to Ireland, from Belarus to Turkey, are working together perfectly, beautifully. Civil sector is ready, companies are ready. It's only you, politicians, that have to catch up. Convince us.
That was no question?
It's a strong comment.
Yeah, of course. But you see, some politicians are dreaming of it, so at least that. Thank you very much for your contribution. Now we go on with the gentleman with the glasses. Wait for the microphone, Professor.
Yeah. I'm shouting anyway, so I also have a dream. How to provide jobs for every European capable of working. I'm afraid that new constitution visions cannot provide jobs, at least in a short or medium term. So what economic structure can Europe develop in the future to face the second part of the title of the panel, tectonic changes in the changing world? How to enhance competitiveness? These are probably the questions of the common people. Thank you.
Thank you much. Who would like to answer it? Mr. Le.
May I say that I'm convinced that we need economic policies connected and very much engaged towards competitiveness. But I would like to repeat what I said. The lack of a good governance created a problem in Europe, and we spent 50 billion euros for this lack of governance. If I have 50 billion euros available, I will have low taxes in my countries for business, for labor. If I have 50 billion euros, I will spend money for have more infrastructures and not to put money in this big bag of the lack of governance of the European Union. I would like to say that the link between good governance and competitiveness is absolutely decisive in my view, and it's impossible to marginalize this problem. The problem of a good governance in Europe, in my view today, is a crucial one. Without good institutions, we will repeat the mistakes of the last 4 years, and with these mistakes we had a very, very bad competitiveness in our continent.
Thank you. Mr. You want to add something?
We have, at the time, 17 fiscal policies and 1 central bank. when you refer to what Mr. Draghi said and Mr. Bernanke 5 years ago, well, there is a difference. They have one central bank and one fiscal policy. Well, European Union, Eurozone, one central bank and 17 fiscal policies. We cannot go for more job with such a situation. We have to change this structurally.
And the last questions, because the ladies have always the last word. We have our participant, well, you're not a lady, unfortunately, but the one who is raising your hand.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm Jingling from China, Chinese Institute for International Studies. My question to all the politicians about the vision of further integration. You know, now it seems that the gap between the elite, as you all advocate further integration, but according to the opinion polls, the idea of supportive integration fell down very quickly. So, as politicians, how to deal with the widening gaps? Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. That was not staged. The last question was from China. So can we go on with the first answer? The score.
The question was that the opinion polls did not support the integration. Sorry, can I ask you again?
Yeah, that's the opinion polls that the downtrend of the public support for the further integration because of that process, because of the increasing in unemployment.
Well, I think that has been partly answered, that if you have good policies, you will obviously have better climate for people to bring in businesses so that there's more employment. And I think that is probably one of the things that is part of the vision or the dream that is being done in the changing world for all communities. And it is something that every politician, as you specifically asked, would like to see and deliver, because we are not there for always. In our country, every 5 years, we have to go to the people again. So you have to answer to the people what you have done for their aspirations. I think every human being who is born has an idea that he wants dignity, he has ambition, and he wants hope for the future. And that is what we should all aspire to do. And I think every politician who wants to keep on serving the people will certainly keep this in the forefront of his mind.
Thank you. Dr. Fischer, push the button, please.
It is true that the question of migration was not touched until now, and thank you that you are turning our thoughts on this problem as well. I believe that migration is a problem in all countries in the world, and to a certain part it's a problem of quantity. If migration is within a certain frame, it is easily acceptable. If it reaches or overgoes certain limits, then you find opposition and you find a skeptical mood in the population. To avoid this, it is necessary, what probably the Italian Prime Minister will underline, to distribute the burdens of migration. There are material burdens and other problems as just and equal as possible between the European countries. And in addition, to a certain degree, it is also a matter of education. And to avoid this skepticism against people with other religion or other color or as a culture, This is one of our big tasks to overcome this and to teach our people and to educate our people. As I said, all human beings have the same value, the same rights, and I hope we have some progress in reducing sensitivity or even aggression against people with migration background. In Austria, we have 10% of our population with migration background, and we manage quite well, but far away from perfect.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Leta, we're already in time, so...
Just a few words on... I think you mentioned the point about the integration, the problem of the integration. And I would like to say that this point is, I think, obliged us to open a sort of Pandora box, because in my view is the crucial point of this period, of this very difficult period in which we are living. A period in which we is not sexy and I is sexy. And for political decisions, it's very difficult to deal with I and not with we. And this is, in my view, the crucial problem today of all democracies. First of all, the European integration, because the European integration is a we, is not a I. And of course, is a period in which it's very easy to say something against or something pushing separation. It's very difficult to work for integration, but it's a time in which we need leaderships able to deal with this problem and to say in a very strong way the separation and the victory of I is a defeat for all of us. In my view, is maybe the crucial challenge for us as politicians, is a crucial challenge and is a crucial challenge for the European Union too.
Thank you, Mr. Leta, and finally, Mr. Barco.
After Second World War, the Europe has gone through a peaceful period of time thanks to a strong European idea. This idea has different stages. Once again, I think we are at the crossroads of history. Could go either way. Could go in a way of further integration, and this is my vision, this is my dream, and I would like to fight for. But could go also other way. Euroscepticism, social tensions, nationalistic tensions, and possible of greater conflicts. And the basic idea of European Union is that let us think what is the common solution for a common problem, not what is, as you said right now, what is a selfish salvation for my own problem. So, let me say at the end of this good debate that we have to choose. Nothing it is for granted. In 1 year time, there will be an important step for European Union, European parliamentary elections. Let us talk about Europe. Let us talk about different options. Well, I will defend strongly my own dream, and this is the United States of Europe. Nobody could, neither I, tell you exactly what this means at the moment. But let us talk and debate this issue, and maybe more and more people would go with it. If the majority will be on the other side, well, I'm not so optimistic about our future.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let us stop here. Thank you very much for your participation. It was extremely fruitful. It was a great privilege to have you here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your stamina. you definitely need a break now. Thank you.